Okay, let's unpack this. What are the core ingredients that make a leader, really effective? Especially when things get complex, messy, the tools aren't perfect.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something everyone bumps up against, right? Whether you're running a huge department or just trying to get a tricky project over the line.
Exactly. And it feels like it goes beyond just having the right title or budget.
Definitely. It often comes down to this kind of fundamental drive, this ability to see what's needed, figure out a path, and just, well, make things happen.
Make things happen. That phrase really captures it. And it's actually central to our deep dive today. We're looking into the career and the leadership style of Dr. Paulo Fontana.
hmm We've got quite a stack of material here, his professional history, a whole bunch of recommendations from people he worked with over the years.
Yeah, and even some really personal farewell messages from his last team at a. Plus, something he wrote himself about a pretty unique team experience.
So our mission, really, is to piece all this together. Not just list jobs and dates, but to try and understand Paolo's approach. His knack, as you said, for making things happen.
And see what we can learn from it, right?
Yeah.
About leadership that works in the real world, warts and all.
Exactly. So whether you're in a leadership role yourself, maybe navigating complex projects, or honestly just curious about what drives success.
There should be something valuable here for you. Okay, let's dive in.
So looking at the career path laid out in the sources, you see this interesting journey. Starts deep in finance, definitely, but it broadens out pretty quickly.
Right. We see early admin and finance roles back in Italy, sort of 80s, 90s.
Then comes Technicolor. That was a significant chunk of time, wasn't it? Over 6 years.
Yeah, and a real progression of roles there.
Yeah.
Finance director for Italy, then VP finance and CFO for Europe,
hmm
but also business development, even general manager running their Madrid operation.
And the sources list some pretty concrete achievements from that Technicolor time. Things like helping with M&A deals, securing about 10 million euros in financial grants.
That's serious money.
It is. And also improving accounts receivable drastically, reducing DSO, that's days sales outstanding, by over 100 days.
Wow. So getting cash in the door much faster.
Exactly. Plus implementing big systems like their 3D on film system across Europe, getting automated sales pipeline management up and running.
Increasing cross-selling revenue, finding cost savings around €1 million,
Oh.
and turning around those Spanish operations you mentioned.
You're right. Sales up 20%, operating profit up over 100%. Real tangible results.
Okay. So after Technicolor.
He moved to Malta Enterprise. Role there was chief officer, corporate affairs, and finance.
And again, the sources point to specific impacts. Leading financial due diligence on a $10 million acquisition?
Yeah, and deeply involved in the contract negotiations for that. Also coordinating the financial side of a 27 million euro investment.
And that accounts receivable improvement again. Reducing DSO by over 100 days. Seems to be a pattern.
It does. Also defining cost-benefit analysis models for EU grants, working on legal instruments, improving HR data, procurement, a broad scope.
Then a brief stint, it looks like, as CFO at Digisec Media.
Correct. Short but impactful, according to the source. New budget models, optimized month-end closing, new reporting, improved sales automation, better HR processes, quick wins.
And that leads into a really long tenure, almost 10 years at SDI Media.
Right. Starting as VP of Financial Systems and Cash Management for Europe, then moving into roles focused on transformation, process, operational improvement.
And the sources really flag his work there on a major plan to improve sales and margins, plus optimizing overhead costs. This was across 22 business units in Europe.
Yeah, and they explicitly state this led to a dramatic improvement in regional EBITDA profitability, essentially within 12 months. And they credit his use of data intelligence and business automation tools for that.
Interesting. So using data strategically.
Seems key. And then his most recent role, the one mentioned in those farewell messages we have, was at Ayuno.
VP Business Intelligence for Performance Improvements, part of FP&A Financial Planning and Analysis.
That's right. From March 2021 until his departure in April 2025. He led the team there, deploying tools for granular sales forecasting, revenue analysis, margin analysis.
And the results mentioned, over $10 million improvement in direct margins, plus identifying over $5 million a year in cost savings through new P&L analysis tools.
So, yeah, you see this path, deep finance roots, but always paired with this drive for operational improvement, for system implementation, and for achieving very concrete financial results.
Okay, so that's the what he did, the career trajectory. Now let's get into the how and maybe the who. What do the people who actually worked with him say? We've got all these recommendations.
Yeah, and reading through them, some really strong, consistent themes jump out immediately.
Like what?
Well, first off, his technical skill and sheer attention to detail, it's everywhere in the feedback. Someone calls him an accountant's accountant.
Okay, high praise in that world.
Right. Others mention his mind like a steel trap. High Excel proficiency, excellent analytical skills, a keen eye for detail, but crucially, also keeping the big picture in view.
So not just lost in the weeds.
Exactly. Words like skill, precision, meticulousness, smartness come up again and again.
That makes sense for the roles he held. But there's more, right?
Oh, yeah. A huge theme is just pure dedication and work ethic. He's called a hard worker, and several people say that's an understatement.
Okay.
They talk about his commitment, energy, enthusiasm, his tireless nature, the drive and energy to see complex projects through, and this unquestioned commitment to hitting deadlines and objectives.
So someone who really puts the hours in and is driven.
Absolutely. And that drive seems connected to a real knack for problem solving and innovation. People mention his ability to size up situations quickly, find practical and innovative solutions.
Not just identifying problems, but fixing them.
Right. A fast problem solver, someone who can turn a messy challenge into structured tasks, having an out-of-the-box approach, implementing new systems, re-engineering processes, that comes up a lot.
Okay, skilled, dedicated, innovative. What
Yeah.
about leading teams?
That's another really strong theme. Team leadership and mentorship. We hear from people who reported directly to him, calling him the best GM or an incredible boss.
Wow.
They say he leads by example, is open to new ideas, pushes creativity, and is always available for advice and support. He's seen as someone who listens, encourages, and empowers.
That enabling aspect sounds important.
Very, giving people confidence, letting them take on challenges, develop professionally. One person, Aneta Guzubiewska, specifically said she learned the difference between a boss and a true leader from him. She highlighted his kindness, openness, and willingness to help others.
That's powerful feedback.
It really is. And then there's this other interesting thread that pops up multiple times across different recommenders and roles, his skill as a negotiator.
Oh, interesting. How is that framed?
Positively,
Hmm.
which is maybe counterintuitive sometimes. Sean Sibers calls him a tough person to negotiate with.
Right, which could sound negative, but
But others clarify. Edwin Eppinger calls him a proactive and able negotiator who looks for win-win outcomes and always acts in the organization's best interest, including reducing costs. Paul Fonecka mentions his negotiating style with colleagues, reports, and customers as a key strength for senior management.
so being a tough or able negotiator is actually seen as a major asset.
Mm.
It's about protecting the company's interests, getting good deals, navigating tricky situations effectively.
Exactly. It fits perfectly with that results-driven focus we saw in his career path. It's presented as adding real value.
Okay, so the recommendations paint this picture. Deep expertise, relentless drive, supportive leadership, innovative problem solving, and being an effective, tough negotiator when needed. It's quite a combination.
Very consistent picture, yeah.
Right, now let's shift to those farewell messages. These are from his colleagues at IUNO, written right as he was leaving in April 2025. They offer a different kind of insight, maybe more personal, more immediate.
Definitely. And the overriding feeling is, well, regret that he's leaving, but also just huge appreciation for what he did there. The CEO, David Lee, used phrases like, truly impressed by the remarkable achievements of the team under Paolo. He called him one of the genius minds driving their success.
High praise from the top. But what about from the team members themselves?
That's where you see that reinforcement of themes, but maybe with more warmth. The mentorship and teaching aspect comes through so strongly.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, people like Claudia, Fez, Beata, Apton, they specifically talk about how much they learned from him, appreciating the time you took to help others learn and grow, his patience, his willingness to share knowledge. Someone even mentioned specifically improving their Excel skills thanks to his guidance.
That's great. It shows he wasn't just focused on the output, but on developing people.
Seems so. And that dedication and passion theme, it's here too. Chad mentioned his passion for things to be right. Nathan Yang appreciated his constant push to always keep us improving our processes and reporting.
Always striving for better.
Mm-hmm. But balanced, it seems, with approachability and kindness. That message from Aneta Gruziewska, again, highlighting his kindness, openness, and willingness to help as what mattered most. saying he always found time to talk, even with a busy schedule. Jorge called him delightful to work with because he was willing to share and keep things moving.
So demanding but accessible.
That's the impression. And underlying it all is this deep current of respect and admiration. They call him a true mentor, incredible leader, an authentic master, just saying they were privileged and honored to work with him. Lots of you will be truly missed.
It sounds like he made a real connection.
Yeah, and they even give little glimpses of his personality, mentioning his great sense of humor, those colorful Italian sayings someone noted, sharing a laugh. Rachel's comment really stood out to me. She said his dedication to data and goals was unrivaled, but it was his generosity towards colleagues that made him unique.
That's a lovely way to put it.
Isn't it? So these farewells really emphasize that his impact wasn't just on the P&L sheet, but on the people,
Yeah.
shaping their experiences, leaving a lasting positive mark through his leadership and his personal qualities.
Okay, speaking of making things happen and shaping experiences, let's get into that story Paolo himself shared about the MTH office. This feels like it pulls everything together, doesn't it? That proactive, results-first mindset.
Absolutely. This comes from a post he wrote reflecting on leading an FP&A team somewhere. He described this daily battle they faced, multiple dispersed, inconsistent data systems, data silos everywhere.
The classic nightmare for finance teams, right? Trying to get clear insights fast.
Exactly. He called them roadblocks to visibility, speed, data integrity, constant pressure to deliver insights faster, but fighting the systems to do it.
And he contrasts this situation with the company's typical experience with big technology projects.
Yeah, he notes that multiple big tech projects had started and ended, spent a lot of capital, but often only delivered fractions of the original target, and usually with delays.
Familiar story. So what did his team do?
Instead of just waiting for some perfect future system, they, in his words, delivered. They rolled up their sleeves and built what they needed themselves. Custom dashboards, real-time analytics, actionable insights.
Using what? Magic.
Not quite. Using the existing business intelligence tools they already had, plus, as he put it, their human intelligence. They figured out ways to use the tools in ways they were never meant to be used.
Okay. Hacking the system, basically. For good.
Pretty much. Making the impossible possible within those constraints. And this is key. They did it without out-of-pocket cost, at spec, and without delay.
Wow. That's impressive. Resourceful.
Incredibly. And it was after tackling one particularly tough challenge that Paolo apparently looked at his team and declared, "We're not just doing our jobs, we're making things happen."
And that name stuck. MTH.
It became their identity, their banner, our culture, as he put it. They started calling themselves the MTH office. Not just a nickname, he said, but a mindset, a mission, a movement.
Love that. So what defined this MTH office mindset? Did he break it down?
He did. 5 key characteristics. First, knowledge. They knew the numbers, the tools, the business inside out. They could translate data into strategy.
Okay. Wow.
Second, creativity. They didn't accept limitations. They reimagined what was possible, built workarounds, fixed broken processes.
The innovation piece again.
Exactly. Third, determination, resilience, pushing through deadlines, setbacks, system failures, taking pride in getting it done.
Grit.
Totally. Fourth, collaboration. They weren't stuck in their finance bubble. They partnered across the company, operations, sales, leadership to solve real business problems.
Breaking down silos from within.
Right. And fifth, purpose. They understood the why. They connected their detailed financial work back to the company's bigger mission.
That's a powerful framework.
He saw the MTH office as proof of what happens when talented people unite with purpose, ingenuity, and that grit you mentioned. They were more than number crunchers. They were catalysts for change, problem solvers, business enablers.
And the big takeaway for him from that whole experience.
It really echoes everything else we've seen. Great things don't need perfect conditions, just the right mindset and the right team.
So when you pull back and look at all these sources together, the career path, the recommendations, those heartfelt farewells, the MTH story, a really clear picture of his leadership does emerge, doesn't it?
It really does. You have this foundation of deep financial and analytical skill, absolutely. But the real impact seems to come from blending that with just incredible dedication, a relentless work ethic.
And that constant focus on solving problems, driving actual results, making things happen.
Right. Not waiting around for everything to be perfect, using creativity, determination, the resources at hand, like the MTH office example showed.
And doing it in a way that empowers and mentors the team, fostering that proactive, collaborative culture.
While also, let's not forget, being that effective negotiator who protects the organization's interests. That's consistently highlighted as a valuable strength.
It seems the what he achieved was inseparable from how he led, leading by example, building trust, inspiring people to push alongside him.
Yeah, that comes through loud and clear.
So for you listening,
Yeah.
what are the takeaways here? Maybe it's that MTH idea, the power of just tackling obstacles head on with creativity, not waiting for permission or perfect conditions.
Or perhaps it's recognizing how valuable it is to combine that deep expertise in your field with real determination and innovative thinking.
Or maybe it's just a reminder that truly effective leadership isn't only about strategy and targets, but about empowering people, building that shared sense of purpose, that belief that, yeah, together you can make things happen.
So here's a thought to leave you with. In your own work, facing your own complex challenges, maybe imperfect tools or data silos, how could adopting a little bit of that MTH mindset, that blend of knowledge, creativity, determination, collaboration, and purpose, help you transform a roadblock into a real opportunity, a breakthrough?
What's maybe one small, seemingly impossible thing you could try to make happen this week?